Volvos are not what you think. Oh, it's just a safe and slow daily driver, right? No, these two aren't. We're going to be reviewing two cars today. This one is a 1996 Volvo 960 Wagon, and this one is a 2004 Volvo S80. These could not be any more different. The brick on wheels is a rear-wheel drive with a 2.9-liter inline-six that's supposed to make 180 horsepower, but doesn't. It's like the Overwatch fandom, barely alive but still running somehow. I mean, just watch it accelerate from a stop. The head gasket was leaking and I think some of the cylinders weren't working, but it still never left the owner stranded. It's just slower than stock. But even 175,000 miles ago, it went 0 to 60 in 8.9 seconds, because you have to remember, this was 1996. The Mercedes-Benz E55 AMG and the Cadillac Escalade hadn't come out yet, so suburban rich folk were limited to less than 200 horsepower unless they got the race-oriented trims. The S80 though was made in 2004, so it made about 205 horsepower with a 2.5-liter turbocharged inline-5. That's not bad. And unlike the 960, aftermarket support does exist. Modifications to this car include a larger turbo and nothing else. Really get nothing until $5,000.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, the previous owner told my buddy he tuned it, but either he's a liar, or this is the product of a weirdly specific infinite monkey theorem experiment.
This is 1,000 monkeys working at 1,000 typewriters. Soon, they'll have written the greatest dino tune known to man. Let's see.
0 to on the RPM limiter.
You stupid monkey!
Because there is zero power until 5,000 RPM, and when it finally gets there, the transmission shifts into the next gear like a drunk friend clumsily cock-blocking you at a party. But you can put it into low gear, and then it'll graciously let you see the power band before needing to be shifted. And before you ask, no, we didn't get a manual in the US. And it's not like it's a quick-shifting dual clutch like what Volkswagen or even Hyundai have. It's a torque converted automatic. And look, I'm not trying to be hard on the S80. I do like this engine, I just wish it were dialed in, and I'll post a video on it when it's tuned. I promise. Alright, we're gonna cover handling next. Spoiler alert, these are two very, very heavy cars. The 960 is a little lighter and is just rear-wheel drive, so it's a tad more agile, but it's still a nearly 2-ton wagon. There's not much front-end plow, thank God, so you could just tug the wheel and the nose is going to point exactly where you want it to go with little fuss. It actually handles a bit better than you'd expect, but it's obviously no Miata, more like a fridge on coilovers. The S80, on the other hand, doesn't do handling in the way that I don't do algebra. It does the bare minimum, like watchmojo.com. Yeah, it is all-wheel drive, but it doesn't help you in the twisties. It's front bias and front heavy in equal measure, so it's a highway bomber kind of car. Don't get me wrong, it'll hug the road pretty well when you're in its comfort zone, but it lacks the nimbleness of a 960. But that's fine. I mean, it's a big booty luxury sedan, that's kind of the point, isn't it? If it's big, comfortable, and decently quick, people who drive over an hour every day will just flock to your dealership. And why shouldn't they? This makes for a perfect daily. Even with its issues, it's still fun. And that goes for the 960 as well. Not to mention, both of these cars have been put through the ringer by multiple previous owners for years at a time, and still run strong with nearly 200,000 miles each. Volvo's entire brand identity has always been building their cars like tanks, and both of these live up to that reputation. The S80 in particular surprised me in that facet, considering how bold of a departure it was from previous designs. I mean, it's not all that different, but for Volvo, this is pretty significant. It's like less brick-like now. But if you're looking for the next BMW E46, these ain't it, chief. The S80 just doesn't have the chops to be a chuckable autocross machine, and the 960 would need lots of fabrication to be competitive in any sense. I mean, there are cars with that 5-cylinder turbo that could replace the 3 Series, like the 850 T5, C60R, and 2nd-gen Focus ST and RS if you're in Europe land. You know, ever since I got into cars, I've never known why Volvo's had that reputation of being a slow, boring commuter. I mean, I got into cars in like the late 2010s, and the 240 had already hit its peak and waned by that point. Did people just forget? Like, fuck that. If you're into Euro cars and you like that big, boaty driving feel, you should really give these a second look. They're cheaper than their competitors while being more reliable and just as comfortable. Like, seriously, apparently they got spinal surgeons to give them advice on how to make comfortable seats. That level of effort was what I wish was standard in a car worth over $55,000 in today's money. So there's my case as to why Volvo is pretty freaking neat. I'm gonna take my leave, but subscribe or something if you want. I mean, I upload like once a year, but at least it won't clog your sub box. I promise.